When marriage and weddings comes to mind, you usually think of a white dress, a father walking his daughter down the aisle, and the recitement of wedding vows in a beautifully decorated church. But in the Arab world, this is a whole different story. Although Christian weddings in the Arab world bear similarities to Western weddings, weddings in the Arab countries are influenced by Muslim traditions and other unique Arab cultures. Unlike Western culture, marriage in the Arab world are heavily regulated by religion, customs, and the judicial system. Drawing upon our knowledge and research on Arabic pop culture, we will explore the different traditions and rules following marriage, weddings, divorce, polygamy, and other customs, in particular focus on Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon. The first Arab country we're going to begin with is Egypt. You may not realize this, but the honorable commitment to each other in marriage is actually a tradition that originated in Egypt. Surprised, right? But it's true. The first time a relationship was given a legal name was in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptians considered getting married as a sacred event in their lives. The rulers of ancient Egypt laid down several laws, rights, and duties, one of the first being gender equality opportunities. However, things have definitely changed in contemporary society in Egypt. One of the critical decisions a woman can make is the choice of a marriage partner. Traditionally, arranged marriages between the heads of the family were common, often with little input from the couple involved. In contemporary Egyptian society, individuals have more decision-making power over who they're allowed to marry. Usually the pattern here is one of negotiation among the members of her family about who she's allowed to marry. She's a participant and must in some sense agree, but many others are involved, including matchmakers. Similarly, a young man may also find restrictions on his choice of a partner as well. The trend is for marriage partners to be increasingly more like one another in age and level of education. Marriages to cousins, however, remains frequent, accounting for 39% of marriages in 1995 as a sample. Since premarital sex is rare, the pressure to marry is high and almost everyone gets married. Polygamy, meaning having more than one wife, among Muslims in Egypt is rare and declining. Only around 5% of Muslim men have more than one wife, and most of them only have two. The signing of the marriage contract is also often the only point in a couple's marital life where they can contractually agree upon the woman's equal right to divorce without resort to the courts. The theoretical ability to include such conditions in the marriage contract does not adequately ensure the protection of that woman's rights. It is extremely rare for Egyptian women to demand the right to divorce during the negotiation and the signing of the marriage contract. Providing women with the same right to divorce as men is seen unacceptable to most Egyptian families. In this context, Egyptian women who are about to get married are usually reluctant to demand such conditions out of fear that such an act may result in the man breaking off the engagement. Before the actual wedding, the engagement party is like a warm-up party for the big day. Couples exchange rings, which they have to wear on the third finger on the left hand. Even after the arranging of the marriage, the bride and groom cannot meet in private. Laylat al-Henna, or the Henna party, is one of the most important customs of the Egyptian wedding. Henna is considered auspicious in Islamic weddings. It is believed to bring good luck to the bride. The bride and her friends and family gather on the evening before the wedding to apply henna on her hands and feet. The wedding ceremony of Egypt is highly influenced by Arab and African traditions. Christian or Islamic weddings take place in mosques or churches. Modern people often opt for hotels for their weddings. In rural Islamic weddings, a colorful procession takes the bride to the groom's house. Despite being hidden from the view of the commoners, the bride is the main attraction of the wedding. The bride rides a camel with a tent-like covering, which is led by the groom's family. In modern weddings, the beautifully decorated cars of both of the families reach the venue, accompanied by a noisy parade. The wedding celebration is signaled by drinking sherbet, a sweetened rose drink. Egypt may have become modern in terms of decoration and venue, but the wedding customs remain the same. Most significant customs in the Egyptian wedding is the signing of the marriage contract, which is carried out by a mazoon, who further goes to register the license of the contract. The signing of the agreement has to be done at the venue of the wedding. In the document, the bride's family has to declare whether the bride is getting married for the first time or has been married before. A false statement could lead to dire consequences. The document is signed by not just the bride and the groom, but also the bride's father and two witnesses. After the signing of the document, the bride and the groom clasp their hands together and press their thumbs together. Then the mazoon then covers their hands with a crisp white handkerchief. After reviewing the documents and reading a verse from the Quran, the mazoon confirms the wedding. The handkerchief can be removed by either the mazoon or by a single man to get blessings for his own wedding. Legally, the boy and the girl are husband and wife, but they cannot stay together until their friends and relatives have attended the wedding party. The party can be hosted the next day, next month, or even the next year. Urban weddings are heavily influenced by Western traditions, like the cake cutting ceremony and throwing the flower bouquet to the woman. The traditional Egyptian singing and dancing are very crucial to the event. No matter how modern you are in the preparation, The feasting is followed by singing and belly dancing, which go on until the next morning. The candelabra dance, which lights the way for the newly married couple, is also celebrated. After the wedding party, the bride and the groom leave the venue to spend the wedding night at the groom's house or a bridal suite. If the couple is retiring to a bridal suite, they will be led by a wedding party, who toss their wheat in the air, which is a symbol of fertility in Egypt.
Up next, we will be talking about Lebanon. It is official. In the past, marriage within the lineage, especially to first cousins or other close paternal kin, was the rule. This provided the woman the security of living among the people with whom she was raised, and also tended to keep the property inheritance within the family. Among Muslims, there is a traditional preference for marriage to a patrilineal first cousin. In some conservative Muslim villages, the choice is considered obligatory. In Roman Catholic canon law, the marriage of persons within the same bloodline or of persons within the third degree of collateral relationship is explicitly forbidden. Although permitted under Muslim law, polygamy is generally regarded as both impractical and undesirable because of the additional economic burden it places upon the household and because of the personal complications it entails. Polygamous families consist of a man up to 4 wives and their children. A man rarely has more than 2 wives, one of whom is sometimes much younger than the other and is married after the children of the first wife are almost fully grown. The 2 wives may live with the children in different rooms of the same house or may reside in separate bodies. A survey of the families in Beirut made in the early 1960s indicated that there was more than 1 wife in only 3% of Muslim families interviewed. Other than the marriage of close relatives, such as first cousins, a factor that enters into the choice of marriage is interest in expanding family resources. A man from the leading family of a particular lineage, especially an influential and wealthy lineage, isn't apt to choose a wife from another such lineage with his own religious community to improve the position of his immediate family group. The general practice in both Christian and Muslim villages is to find a partner within the village, preferably the closest eligible relative within the family. This practice has been considerably weakened in villages close to cities, where marriage outside the family and outside the village occur more often, and where first cousin marriage occurs only occasionally. The age in marriages: in some villages, girls tend to marry in their late teens, boys in their early 20s. Urban youth marry somewhat later. Among educated families, young men frequently postpone marriage for many years, some of them waiting until their late 30s or early 40s. Christians and Druze do not enter into formal marriage contract. Muslims, however, do after the announcement of the engagement of a Muslim couple, and before the wedding takes place, a formal contract is drawn up. The marriage is legal once the contract is signed. The contract notes the consent of the couple in marriage and specifies the bride price, a payment by the young man to his fiancée. In traditional Muslim society, the bride price represented a substantial amount of money or its equivalent in land or a combination of both. If there is something the Lebanese love to do, it's to celebrate. They celebrate practically everything, yet there is one event that they celebrate that is given the most importance, and it's the wedding. On the wedding day, the groom and the groomsmen stay behind the party venue to await everyone. The future in-laws present the bride at her home a gift like a dowry. Usually it is a gold necklace for her to wear on the day. The gift is presented to her in front of everyone. As they are leaving their home, the women from both sides of the family are given the blessings with chants and the jubilation sounds called zalguta. The zalguta is practiced all over the Middle East and in some parts of Africa. It is a high-pitched tongue trill, a physical skill that involves the throat and the tongue. During the weddings, the streets are closed off by the presence of villagers on looking from balconies and porches. Entire neighborhoods become part of the celebration by throwing rice, candy-coated almonds, and flower petals on the bride and groom's accompanying family, as a symbol of good health and prosperity for the couple. Rice is a symbol of fertility and a wish for prosperity in a full pantry. One of the middle-age wedding traditions was to bang pots, ring cowbells, and generally make a lot of disturbing noise after the marriage ceremony in order to ward off evil spirits. This custom has been replaced in Lebanon with honking of the procession of cars following the bride to the reception. To our days, you can hear the honking of the convoy of cars in the streets of Lebanon as family and friends escort the bride to her groom. The zeffet, a Middle Eastern trademark dating back to the 14th century, is the customary way in which the bride and groom are escorted from their respective family homes to the ceremony location. It represents a celebratory event in which music, dance, and public participation are at its core. While the zeffet has been used to escort very important figures in all types of social and political domains, the most memorable zeffets are those that create an ambitious of joy and unison experience during weddings. The wedding starts with two parties, one in the groom's home and one in the bride's home, and it ends in the venue where the bride and groom walk behind the zeffet for the first time in front of everyone as husband and wife. If the wedding lacks a zeffet, which is never the case, a wedding is still not considered complete.
Lastly, we have Saudi Arabia, also known as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the second largest state in the Arab world. Officially, all Saudis are Muslim, with Sunni Muslims comprising 75 to 90% of the population, and Shia Muslims comprising the rest of the 10 to 25%. Laws relating to marriage, divorce, children, and inheritance are not codified and fall within the general jurisdiction of the Sharia courts. Typically, marriage was between the first paternal cousins or related kin. However, these practices are slowly changing, resulting in fewer close cousin marriages. It was also customary for the soon-to-be spouses to not meet until the wedding night, as the parents of the groom and bride arranged the marriage. This part of the marriage too, however, has changed over time. It is also tradition for the new couple to throw out their old clothes and buy new ones together, symbolizing their new life together. There is no minimum age in Saudi Arabia for women to marry. In 2001, the Grand Mufti asked Saudi women to accept polygamy as part of the Islamic package, and in the past, the government has promoted the polygamous lifestyle as part of a return to Islamic values. However, it is only the man who has the right to up to 4 wives, provided he may provide for them all equally. This practice is not as popular nowadays, as women are voicing their discontent with this law. Men have a unique right to divorce without needing any legal justification. The husband's obligation is to then provide financial support for the divorced wife for a period of 4 months. A woman can only obtain a divorce with the consent of her husband, or rather judicially if her husband has harmed her. In regards to marrying a foreigner, Saudi has issued new laws regarding the rules regulating the permissible ages between the two spouses. A woman may not marry a foreigner if she is over 50, whereas prior, the age was set at 55. Previously, the age difference was not to exceed 30 years. However, the new rule is 15 years as a maximum age difference. These types of marriages have become more common in the last 20 years, as the high rate of dowry, marriage expensive, income, and stability have given reasons for Saudi men to prefer foreign wives. When it comes to weddings, there are multiple steps in the traditional Saudi wedding. The first one being the proposal. Conventionally, it is the male's family that seeks the bride when he is ready to be married. Usually, the groom asks the bride's father or the eldest male in the family for her hand in marriage. If the eldest male agrees, the family reads the Surat al-Fatiha formed from the first chapter of the Quran. The second step is the viewing. This is where the bride is formally invited to unveil in the presence of her future husband. However, this step may be delayed among stricter families. The third step is called the marriage contract, also called milka, and the dowry, also called mahar. The amount of the dowry and other terms are negotiated between the groom and the father of the bride. The marriage contract is the official marriage ceremony and also takes place at the time of the dowry agreement. The imam gives a short speech on how husbands and wives should honor each other and the religious implications of marriage. The legal documents are filled out, signed, witnessed, marking the official marriage of the couple. It also must be witnessed by 2 male witnesses or 1 male and 2 females. This event is traditionally held in the home of the bride or groom, but it may also be held in a mosque or courthouse. As for the dowry, the amount is much higher for a female who is a virgin than for a non-virgin, or for a woman who is widowed or had been divorced. next step is the meeting of the families, called the shakba. The shakba is a celebration for both families, which is traditionally hosted by the bride's family on the same day as the marriage contract, at which time the groom will present the dowry and engagement ring to the bride, along with other gifts. The dowry is based on the financial status of the groom and is paid in the form of cash. The next step is the betrothal. At this event, the families of both the bride and groom come together to decide the date of the wedding events. The objective of this meeting is to fix and announce the dates of each event in a formal manner. After the betrothal is the henna party. This event often occurs the night before the wedding, and the bride's female relatives and friends join her in a party of food, music, and dancing. The bride and her guests have their palms and feet decorated with henna by a female henna artist, and the groom also has a party in which the groom's face is shaven by a close male friend or family member. Whether the henna night is traditional or modern, the bride dresses in the ithiyab, a traditional elaborately embroidered gown, while the groom wears a traditional thobe, both in white. Lastly, there's the wedding and reception. The wedding day is celebrated in two separate events for the bride and groom. The men's consists of the traditional sword dances and drumming, providing the wedding guests with entertainment prior to joining the bride's party. An abundant feast is also presented to guests at the wedding, which also conveys the wealth of the families. Traditionally, they were held in homes, but today are usually held in large hotel ballrooms or special wedding halls. The newlyweds then switch their engagement rings from the right index finger to the left ring fingers to signify that they are now married. A traditional congratulatory phrase the guests tell the groom is, "From you the money, from her the children." The men's party ends after the dinner, but then the husband and his family, along with the bride's immediate family, then go to the women's party. The women's party lasts longer than the men's, is more elaborately decorated, and in addition to food, has music, singing, and dancing. After all the celebrations, the couple is traditionally escorted to their new home, or leave for their honeymoon. In some weddings, the couple meet for the first time on their final night of celebrations.
كالسحر أمساتها والحسن حلا